I'll hit record and then I'm talking. I'm like, okay, welcome back to the library. That's how it goes. But yeah, friends, welcome back. Super excited to have my friend Tasha with me here today, which is really funny that that's how you have your name on our thing because I know your full name and everybody else is like Nat and Nat. And I'm like, I always call her Tasha.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I kind of forgot about that. Yeah, I
I
go by
didn't
Tasha
even
a lot.
I didn't even you had never introduced yourself to me that way, because your
Right.
full name is on all of the stuff that social media and everything, and I saw
Mhm.
that and I was like, I just call her Tasha, I think it's cute."
Yeah, I feel weird being called Natasha. I feel like I'm in trouble.
So formal.
Yeah.
That's funny. So, tell me, I'm gonna start off with tell me about the one book you always recommend, and then one book that you feel like you would never recommend to someone.
Okay. Um, I think the book that I would recommend would be the Mindfuck series. That is like my top. I I have reread that book I think like 3 times. Well, the series
That's
cuz I
crazy.
mean, I count it as one book cuz it's all together,
That's
but
so fun.
that
Kind
is
of.
my go-to. Um and then the one that I wouldn't recommend would this is like really controversial. It would have to be Things We Never Got Over.
Really? Why?
Yeah. I don't know. I liked it the first I feel like I liked it the first couple chapters, and then after it just started to drag, and then the plot just didn't make sense to me, and it was just going in a whole bunch of different directions, and I was like, yeah, this is not for me. I read the whole thing because I was in a book club while I was reading
Mhm.
it, so like I felt like I at least had to see it through, but yeah. That series is just not for me.
That's crazy because I actually started it. God, this year has been crazy for me because I've been, like, starting books, and I think it has a lot to do with I have a touch of I'm gonna what some internet friends call autism, and then I also have, really bad ADD and a touch of the ADHD, which they need
Okay.
to relabel, but that's a whole different so, like, every time I can get into a book and I'll get started in, like, the first 5 to 10 chapters,
Mhm.
and then I'll, like, put it down. Like, one day I'll just put it down and not be in the mood to read, or I'll be in the mood to read, but not necessarily that. I'm a
Yeah.
heavy mood reader, and I started it 3 weeks ago and haven't touched it since. I'm, like, 2 chapters in.
I was gonna say, how far did you get in?
Not very far.
Yeah, I feel like the first 5 chapters were good for me, and then after that, it just dragged for, like, ever. I felt like I
Yeah.
was reading the book forever. It took me the whole time that we were reading it to finish, and I think I finished it, like, that day that we were supposed to talk about it because I was like, "Let me just power through this," and then yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
Do you DNF books?
um, I try really hard not to. I don't I feel guilty if I don't. But I have seen like a lot of people say like, "Oh, don't feel guilty for not reading the books because you have so many books on your TBR and whatnot." So I have DNF'd how many books? I want to say only 2 books.
Only 2?
Yeah, only 2.
I've got one on my list, and the sad thing is that it's for an author that I actually really enjoyed a different series,
Mhm.
but it was her take on a Hades and Persephone, and my first ever book I read from her was a Lucifer, like, God and angels, and so for her to switch into Greek mythology, it just did not sit right with me, like, the way that she wrote fit better for the gods and angels and not necessarily Greek, and I was
Not
like,
the okay.
This doesn't sit right with me," so I had to put it down, and I ever since then, I've been wanting to try again because I hadn't read Greek mythology until after someone else like, I saw someone else wreck The Neon Gods by Katie Robert.
Mhm.
I
That's a
got
good
through,
book.
like, 6 of those. I got through, like, 6 of that series, and I was like, "Okay, now that we've kind of dipped our toe in, maybe we should at least attempt," and that's I always feel guilty.
Mhm.
Like, I know I shouldn't because there are plenty of books in the world,
Right.
and especially in here, but and then I'm like, I feel like I didn't give it a fair shot," like
That's what I say. I'm like, the one that I did DNF was My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey.
mhm,
Everybody talks so highly about that book and everything, so, like, I bought it and I was like, "Okay, I'm so ready to read this." I read the first, like, 10 pages, and it was just a lot. Like, it was too much at once, and, like, it just felt very juvenile to me. I
mm,
gave it until 100 pages because I just was like, "No, I can't DNF it," and then I was like, "No, absolutely, I can't. I just can't. I can't get into it."
mm. See, it's crazy for me that it's so easy for some people to DNF because it's really hard for me. And like I said, I can start so many and then get like a few chapters in and stop and put
Yeah.
it down. And then I'll go away a couple months and I'll finish like another 10 books and then come back to it.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, when I read the ACOTAR series, I finished all four in like 3 or 4 days or all
Really?
five, 4 or 5. Yeah, I finished them in less than 5 physical days. Like, I was reading so fast. So
I
I'm
still
like
haven't finished
but
that series.
like, since then, I'm like, I finally gathered all of Throne of Glass and all but one of the Crescent City, and I still
Mhm.
have not I can't. Like, just the task list of trying to get through all of Throne of Glass
Mhm.
has my brain like, "Nope." It's like,
That's funny.
it's not happening.
But Throne of Glass is really long. I know it's like a couple books. Longer than Avatar.
Yeah. I think they're 3, 6, 8.
Yeah.
There are 8, and then you've got 3 Crescent City, and she just said that she was doing 1 or 2 more for ACOTAR,
Yeah, I
and
heard.
Throne of Glass is not technically done, and Crescent City is definitely not done,
Mhm.
and she was like, "There's more everywhere," and I was like, "Oh god, please
Gotta get
no."
prepared.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So tell me, have you, like, always been a reader?
Yeah. So I used to read like Junie B. Jones and I
Same.
think Judy Moody's,
Mhm.
those were called. I used to read Junie B. Jones with my grandpa, and we used to do it every day after school. He would take me to 7-Eleven, we get a little sweet treat, and then I
Oh.
would read to him like a couple chapters, go home, and that was like my day. um, and I had like read on and off after that. I wasn't like big like avid reader, and then when he passed away, I stopped reading like completely. And recently, when did I think it's been a year since I've been in the book talk, like bookstagram community and whatnot. And
Mm.
I that's when I really started to power through, and I like started reading again. And then I'm now in a little hiatus, but I'll be
Yes,
back
yeah.
soon. But
Life
yeah,
happens. So, when you got back in, did you see something, like, on Book Talk, or did you jump in? Yeah.
I read It Ends With Us.
That one. That
Yeah.
one right there has a lot of people. How do you feel about the movie variation in works?
I'm trying to be optimistic about it. It wasn't how I visioned like the characters and everything, so it was a little disappointing at first, but I still want to watch it. Like I still want to see if they
Yeah.
portray it really well because I do like the actors and actresses, but I just wasn't expecting them to be the roles, so
Mhm.
it took a little bit of getting used to. But I'm
I feel
excited for it.
like for me, it definitely wasn't how I envisioned the characters,
Mhm.
but I feel like they chose more well-established actors and actresses so that it would kind of make a bigger stamp on people outside of the reading community.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of it like that.
So I and like Like, because obviously when you look at, like, Twilight and Hunger Games and Divergent and things like that, like, they had enough press outside of the reader community because for like, obviously, I knew Twilight was a book series and The Hunger Game was a book series, but when they were coming out with Divergent, I had no idea it was a book series.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, of course, I was considerably younger, but
Right.
it's one of those, like, if we give it enough press and they have certain established that have such career, there are gonna be people who followed these actors and actresses anyways that are
Yeah.
gonna wanna go and watch it, and then they're gonna talk about it, and there's word of mouth how that happens, and I feel
Hmm.
like, obviously, I really love I r like, side note, Blake Lively is a goddess,
She
okay?
is.
She's a goddess, and her husband is hilarious,
Oh my
like,
god, her husband is amazing. They both are.
okay, yes, and so for me, it was like anything that has the 2 of them, I'm probably going to end up watching at some point,
Yeah.
and I love their relationship and them and their kids and their relationship with other people in the A-list community, and
Mhm.
even a little less than A-list, but still, and so it was like one of those I would have picked someone who was a little more homely looking than Blake Lively because she is more of a goddess, like someone who doesn't necessarily look like 'cause I mean, in all reality, she just looks like a model most days. Like, even when
Yeah.
she's relaxed and just walking, like, if she's not completely done up for a movie or something, she still looks like above average, whatever I wanna say, above average than the rest of us, I feels like.
Right. I get what you're saying. I
I
get
mean, they
exactly.
were a li with, like, the obviously, like, it's not Tom Cruise or, Patrick Dempsey or
Oh
it's
yeah.
someone that I would have been like, "What were you thinking?"
Yeah.
But
That's
I feel like the
true.
male characters were a little bit closer, but definitely for the the female characters, it was like, this is a little left field.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at first I was hard it was hard for me to envision Justin as Ryle cuz I had watched like New Girl and stuff.
Mhm.
Not New Girl. Oh my god. What's that one show he's in?
Oh,
Jane
girl,
the
I don't know.
Virgin? Jane the Virgin.
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
And
yes.
I liked him in there, but I didn't really see him like as because Ryle was like a villain in the book. So it's like
Yeah,
can he portray that way, the way that she, portrayed Ryle in the book? But I think he'll do. A lot of people say that he's really good, so I think
I I would like to see him bulk up a little bit because in my mind, Ryle was, like, a little more shoulder wide,
yeah.
like, a little more chest and shoulder width and a little bulkier on the top, just
Yeah.
because she did portray that he was, like, physically fit, extremely
Mhm.
physically fit, and, working in the ER and medical, so, like, you're on your feet 24/7.
That is true too. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
Mhm.
You're right. I forgot that he was a nurse too, or whatever he was. I think he was a nurse, right? Or a
Doc
doctor?
doctor, surgeon,
Something like
something
that. I
like that.
totally forgot that he
Yeah.
was that.
Yes. And see, for me, Atlas, like, I did not feel like, um because both of the male main characters from like, that according to the actors are, like, sandy brown,
Mhm.
and even though the description may say something to match that, in my head, not Atlas, he was, like, more of a blondish. Okay, I'm not alone on that.
No, I pictured him
And I mean,
completely
obviously not
different.
platinum blonde, but,
No, I
like
just pictured him like I can't even. I didn't even have like a set cast in my mind because I'm not
mm-mm,
like one to. I know a lot of like readers can put actors and actresses is like in
yeah.
books and like make movies in their head and whatnot. I can't do that necessarily. Like I kind of just create my own picture of what they look like.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can't really gather. Just depends on like how I connect to the book and whatnot. But I just didn't picture them to be like that at all.
Yeah. That's just I it's really interesting to see, creative minds and their different takes on that because I feel
Mhm.
like obviously Coho had some say in that, but at the same time, when you turn around and if you were to do it with someone who was more indie based, um, where they are going out and having art made by other creators,
Mhm.
you were and then you were to try to find a cast that matches. Like, for example, a lot of people have made art for she's SJM's not indie based, but they have made SJM art,
Mhm.
like character art, and I feel like if someone were to try to go in first of all, the series is so widely controversial that if somebody tried to go in and make a cast and match, they would be like, "Well, which version of the arts are you gonna do?"
Mhm.
But if you do someone who, like, specifically contacted an artist and said, "Hey, this is what I envisioned. This is what I want them to look like. These are the characteristics," and then you went in and tried to do a cast for it, you would have such a hard time trying to get close to it because we have a small pool.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously, there are a lot of people in the world who are aspiring who could do it, but they're gonna want some sort of someone who has somewhat of a fan base to bring more attention in.
Instead of doing, yeah. Yeah, that is true. I didn't even think of it like that either.
Mm, mm,
It
mm.
just creates it calls more to everybody instead of like certain people or a certain community or
Yeah,
just the book talk community and bookstagram and whatnot. It'll be more than that. It'll be
for
pretty
sure.
big.
I feel like I feel like book talk really has, like, run off and infiltrated other places too.
Mhm. For
Like,
sure.
now I'm,
It's
like, sitting and
everywhere.
looking at book talk and biker talk and mass talk, and I'm like, "Excuse me. Excuse me. Please
It's
stop merging."
everywhere. Once you get book talk, you get like all of the random like I get lots of random men on my For You page, and then they're like, "Oh my god, these would be such good in like the bikers." I've seen a lot of bikers recently. The biker talk.
I was kind of already on biker talk because my husband is a biker.
Okay.
So, like, he would send me videos, like, obviously, most people that nowadays, they start on TikTok and they share it to Facebook or Instagram or whatever. He would send me the
Mhm.
reel, and it would link me back to TikTok because I actually have the app. And so then I would end up watching it so many times or watching so many similar that I ended up there.
Mhm.
And that's why I tell people, I'm like, "Please be careful about what you send others
That
because
is true.
you're going to be encouraging their algorithm."
Uh-huh. That's for sure. They're gonna see you look at it one time, and that's that.
Mhm. Do you prefer Book Talk or Bookstagram or maybe even Threads?
So I preferred Bookstagram at first.
Mhm.
I feel like Bookstagram was which was a year ago, very welcoming and like you could make friends like that. And now I haven't really been as active because I feel like you don't get anything like in return
Mm,
or anything like that. Like it's really hard now to make connections. Like I still have some of the connections that I've had from a year ago and whatnot. But like now with the bookstagram, I feel like there's a lot of hatred and like a lot of
mm,
jealousy maybe. When honestly all I wanted was to just be creative and be my own, like have my own little pictures or little reviews and whatnot. And
yeah,
it's like I feel like a lot of the people think like people are stealing their ideas or like I don't know. It's just what I've seen like recently. I haven't really been
yeah.
on it, like I said, not too active. Threads, I kind of forget that threads is a thing, not gonna lie. um So I prefer book talk. Even though book talk is still the same thing. Like there's a lot of hatred and a lot of
Mhm.
just jealousy that goes around, and I want it to be like how it was when it first came about. If that
Yeah.
makes sense. I don't know.
There is that. I said this to someone else, and I'll probably say it again many times, but I actually personally, I prefer Facebook. And mainly just because I feel like the
Oh,
interaction is a
Facebook.
little more
Yeah.
wholesome.
Mhm.
Whereas, like, with Instagram, it seems really welcoming depending on what side you're in, but then as you start to get sucked into, like, if you're doing follow trains or engagement groups or just trying to get a little bit of your stuff seen without following thousands of people and just being left with, like, a small following base,
Mhm.
it starts to be like if you don't have a specific look for your grid or if you don't have a specific theme, and a lot of the times when you ask other like larger creators, how did you get where you are? Like, for example, a lot of people I have over 3K right now, and I've only been on there for a little over a year and a half. And if somebody asked me, "How did you get as many followers as you?" I fell into being an admin for engagement groups and doing follow trains, but I can tell you
Mhm.
right now, if I posted without any engagement groups, I would get 20 likes. That's
Yep.
it.
Yep.
And it's the nature of the algorithm, like, it just is what it is.
Mhm.
Because a lot of people are stuck in the not even, like, there's a filter. I don't know if anybody's ever actually seen this, but when you get into Instagram and you're on your main feed, there's a filter at the top. You'd click it and you drop down it and you can actually select your following. Most of the time, what's in your main feed as you're looking at it for their algorithm is not your following.
The little like drop downy thing.
Yes, it's like favorites and following. So, like, if you're in your main and you haven't selected one of those, it's a
Oh,
mix of for you and your following. It's not always all of your
just
following.
your
So if
following.
you wanna yeah, so if you wanna change your algorithm, you either have to
Mhm.
go in and find specific profiles and favorite them or and then drop down and choose your favorites or drop down and choose your following.
Mm.
Otherwise, you're not going to be seeing a lot of the I actually had to do that 6 months ago, 8 months ago. I
Mhm.
went in, I found your profile, Angie's profile, Kelly's profile, and I started going in and, like, marking them as favorites and close friends,
Mhm.
and then I would filter in, and when you do that, it actually pushes all of y'all's content to the front of my feed.
Oh,
So
I
then,
didn't know
like,
you
if
could do
I
that.
yes, you can do it.
I had no idea.
Yep, and on top of that, there are certain people I knew after I followed them, I would see their stuff for, like, a couple weeks, and then it would fall off, and I'm like, "I know they're still posting," because
Okay.
they have new reviews showing up on Facebook, or I'm seeing
Yeah.
some of their stuff every once in a while because maybe we overlap in something, or I scroll for 3 hours and I finally see something,
Mhm.
and so I would go in and just turn the post notifications on.
Oh, that's I didn't even think about doing that either.
Yep.
I would just scroll and then just I didn't want to get in like Insta jail or whatnot, so I was like, let me just like, the people who I follow and
So I actually was, part of admin groups enough to figure out the numbers because you can only follow 7,500 people per page. They have a limit. So, whenever you hit your first 1,000, I think, ish,
Mhm.
1,500, you have about as far as following, you have about 100 to 150 likes per hour. And then
Okay.
as you go up per 1,000, you get another 100 or so likes. And
Oh.
and it's like if you like so many times within that, they restrict you for an hour,
Mhm.
or if you post I think it's like if you start to post too regular, like you're choosing the same times and days every
Mhm.
week, they start to think that it's like almost AI. Um, and so then they'll go in and block your account, get you in Insta jail.
Hmm.
Or like if you comment the same thing under too many people's posts, It's the exact same thing, you
Oh, okay,
copy and
okay.
paste. That's how
That
people
makes
get
sense.
locked out of their accounts. So, for example, if you're part of an engagement group or you're doing a follow train or you're doing those 2 things regularly, and most of the time when you're hosting one, you post it on your page, and then
Mhm.
everybody who's in the train will come in and be like, "Happy hosting." If you say that too many times, you're gonna get blocked.
That makes
If
sense.
you're doing follow
I
trains 3 and 4 times a week and you're typing happy
Mhm.
hosting or happy train day or whatever you wanna say,
Mhm.
obviously you're
That's
gonna
what's gonna
get blocked.
happen. I didn't even know that at all. I don't do research about these things.
Yeah, and it was, like, after I started getting behind the scenes and people who really, like, were into Instagram's algorithm
Mhm.
and I started seeing all that, I was like, "Okay, this is very much like I would prefer to get the likes, and my feed should be for me first and foremost."
Yeah.
Just like just like for this podcast. As much as I want this to grow and go somewhere, this is for me and my friends.
Yeah.
Like, I'm go obviously, it's gonna go on fa on YouTube because I
Mhm.
want people to be able to watch it. But it was one of those, like, I've had a couple people say, "Oh, you should put it on Apple, you should put it on Spotify, you should try to get a little bit more platform," and I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be great," but at the same time, it's just me. I'm a one-woman
Yeah.
show currently,
Right.
and as a one-woman show, I have every right to choose if I want this to be YouTube-based only.
Yep.
And personally, I feel like that's gonna be the best bet. One, because I'm not sure that I wanna really continue supporting Spotify right now with what they're doing with authors who choose to put their audiobooks on Spotify.
Mhm.
For anyone who doesn't know and haven't seen, as of right now, if an author chooses to put their audiobook on Spotify, Spotify has it in their terms and conditions and the agreement that you sign on when you put it up that they can do anything they want to it, essentially. They
Mhm.
can repost, they can take it and make it their own, they can take your characters and your world and create something new with it.
That's
Oh,
so crazy.
they basically own rights to do whatever they want with your book.
Hmm.
Make a movie of it, make a new version of it, change the ending.
That's so crazy.
Yep. There is and if you want more information on it, there is a narrator, Laura Horowitz, something like that. Blonde lady. She's really cool. Um, she narrated CC Davies, um, The Witchling Chronicles. If you are into fantasy, I would highly recommend.
Okay.
It's a really neat series. Um, she's actually how I got into audiobooks, but she goes into a lot of detail about the terms and conditions because she narrates and she's done quite a few different things, and so she was part of the information when that went out.
Okay.
But yeah. So when I started, it was like getting behind the scenes and seeing all these things and then deciding to start this podcast. It was like, first of all, if I do anything part of this community, it's mainly going to be for me. And at
Mhm.
first, when I started my Bookstagram, it was kind of one of those I'm just posting whatever. I want to be part of teams because
Mhm.
I love supporting these authors. And so I got onto so many street teams. First of all, it's a trap. With as much love as I can muster, a street team is a trap if you're doing more than, like, 2,
Yeah.
because your feed is no longer yours.
It's
It belongs to
everybody
the
in there,
author.
right? And oh,
Your feed is no longer
that's true.
yours because there are some street teams that require you post a certain amount of times a week, um, and there are some that require you post certain things on certain
Mhm.
days. I understand if you're coming up to a release and you wanna blast that out and you really wanna make sure that as many people can see it as possible, but at some point, if you're requiring your team post 2 times a week about your book, their social media is no longer really their social media, because for
Mhm.
me, I can only schedule 1 post on my Instagram a week, and that's if I remember to take the pictures the week before. So
Right.
I'm like, if I'm posting more about your stuff than I'm posting about my stuff, it's not my social media account anymore.
Yep. That is true.
which is where I just, like, completely restarted my Bookstagram, and I was like, no."
Yeah,
So all of it
I haven't even noticed. I haven't been on it in a while.
it's it's so pretty.
Okay, I'm gonna look at it when we're done.
It's really eye-pleasing. Like, I was like, "I want something that is just, like" I don't care if like, because at first I had no theme, and I was like, I don't really need a theme, I'm just gonna do
Yeah.
whatever." And then I started seeing things that, like, when people do groups of 3 in line of
Mhm.
something, it looks really pleasing to the eye, and I was like, "I'm just gonna go with that." And so it's
Oh,
so
that's
pretty when it
cute.
lines up, it's really cute, yeah. And, of
Okay.
course, it's got all of this in the background. I have to, like,
Mhm.
drag my chair out of the way when I wanna take pictures.
Mhm. I'm gonna check it out when we're done. For sure.
Okay, who is your number 1, like, auto-buy author? Do you have one?
Um, okay. This is kind of funny, but I have two. I have Frida McFadden. I love her books. They're so easy to
So
read.
popular.
Yeah, I she's just so easy to read and to follow. And like whenever I need like a quick like get me back into reading kind of book, I read her books.
Mhm.
Um, Sophie Lark.
Sophie Lark.
But I haven't read any of her books yet.
Just like I
I
already know it's gonna be good.
Yeah, I just love like I follow her and everything and I really like her. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy her books. And I have most of them, but I'm still working on it. And I want to wait until I get all of them to be able to read them.
Somewhere around here in these shelves is the first book, and there are what is it called? There are no saints?
There Are No Sinners or Saints, the duet.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. I
Yeah.
have the first one somewhere around the shelf, and I've been like, "Eventually, we will get the second one." But I'm the kind I refuse to read the first one because then I feel
You
like
have.
I'm gonna get left,
Yep.
and I'm like, "I
Exactly.
can't. My heart can't take that."
Yeah, because I have like a couple of the Brutal Prince series. I don't know what that series is called, but I still have some more
Mm.
to get. So I'm waiting because I'm like, what if I really like them and then I just want to keep reading, and I don't have them. And I know they're on Kindle Unlimited, but it's not the same. Like I want all the books.
Okay, maybe an unpopular opinion here, but I, just actually canceled my Kindle Unlimited because I feel like it's not worth it.
No?
I personally can read over 25 books in 1 month. Let's preface with that. So,
Okay.
monetary wise, it can be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
However, when I know that KU is not paying the authors worth anything, is allowing the authors to like, not necessarily allowing, but they're not really also doing anything about the fact that, authors' works are being plagiarized, and they're forcing the authors to take their works down.
Mm-hmm.
Or there are certain authors that can't post their taboo or, just if they wanted to write erotica, there are some authors that can't post those and some that can. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very much a 50-50. Whereas you're paying anywhere from $9 to $12 a month, depending on where you are in your subscription and how long you've had it, for obviously millions because it's Kindle and most people publish through Kindle. But if you look into something like Kobo, Kobo is audio and Kindle for $8.99 a month.
Really?
Yep,
I did not know that.
yep. And in my opinion, there are enough buy for free, like stuff your Kindle days
Mm-hmm.
throughout the year that and daily free Kindle books. For anybody who did not know that, Kindle has free Kindle books every day. Amazon does it every day. They just randomly go in and put stuff on sale. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, between the stuff your Kindle days, the daily free Kindle books, and the double points Kindle days that they do, I'm like, Kindle games that I have on Facebook, all of this, I really don't need to pay for Kindle Unlimited anymore,
Yeah.
especially if you're in as many Facebook groups as I am. Like, I'm in, like, 40 or 50.
My gosh. I used to be in that many, but it was too overwhelming.
So, like, when double points a days hit, all I have, and most of the time, the groups will go in and be it's like a free for all, post your thing and get
Mhm.
gifted if you like random acts of kindness. Most of the time, I get 1 or 2 books from that.
Oh, okay.
So it's like each time I go, I'll post in like I'll see definitely at least 3 groups that I know do it regularly. When
Mhm.
double points goes up, I just go in and leave my list and say, "Hope everybody's doing well. I'll gift if I can." Most of the time, my friends are overlapping in all the groups, so I just gift in one group and we're good.
Right.
Um, but yeah, between all of that, I'm just like, is it even worth it to have KU anymore at this point? Because I have nearly 2,000 downloaded on my Kindle and
Yeah.
have only read maybe 300, not even 300. I'm like, and on
At
top of
that point,
that,
right?
having Kobo, knowing that a lot of authors that I would have had to pay for in
Mhm.
Kindle, I can pay for the cheaper version of Kobo and get theirs part of the Kobo Plus. And then same thing, Barnes& and Noble has Nook, and they have a Nook app, and they have
Yeah.
free books every single day too. So it was like between all of these different platforms, if Kobo is the cheapest, and I know that a lot of authors that don't use KU are on Kobo or have been banned from KU use Kobo, why would I not switch to another
To a different,
provider like that? Yeah,
yeah, different platform. Hmm.
because if you bundle your KU and your, what is it, Audible?
Yeah.
Audible's like what, $16 for like is it 1 credit?
It's 1 credit
It's
a
like
month. Yeah.
yeah, 1 credit a month, and yes, there are free books that are part of that. Most of them are the less popular,
Mhm.
not something that you want. So you have 1 credit that you pay $17 for, and if you do 3, you're paying 25-ish?
Yeah, I think like 25, 26. Yeah. It's really expensive.
And I'm sitting here thinking, like, eventually, I'm probably gonna end up having the popular books in print anyway, so now why would I not again, the Kobo, less popular people, if Kobo pays their authors more,
Yeah.
and
That's it.
they're like I'm like, if I'm really supporting them,
Mhm.
I'm I'm either buying the paperback or I'm on something that's paying them more as I'm reading it,
Paying them what they
and then I
deserve.
still yeah, or and then
Yeah.
I'm still probably buying the paperback because
Yeah, I'm the same way. I buy it and then I read it on my Kindle. I'm like, I don't
'cause
want to
I'm like
mess it up. It's too pretty.
yes.
Mhm.
Do you, do you like to decorate your Kindle with stickers? Like, put it in a clear case?
Yeah, I have a clear case, a little pop socket, and then I just change my little stickers out and whatnot.
I need to go in and, like, put the MagSafe so that I can change out my
Change
pop
the pop
socket.
socket. Mhm.
Yes, because I have a new favorite indie author who makes well, I don't know if she knows one of them is glow in the dark, but she makes dragon pop sockets, and
Okay.
they're so cute. One of them was glow in the dark.
Really?
Yes, I had it on my Kindle, and I had no idea I had my Kindle face down, so the pop socket was sitting up on my
Uh-huh.
nightstand, and I turned the light out, and I rolled over, face it, and I had my eyes closed, and my husband was like, "What is glowing on my nightstand?"
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, it was really cute. It's the same author that sent me, we're gonna say the word phallic keychains.
Oh, okay. I get it. I was confused. I'm about to be
Yeah,
like, wait. Okay.
just on the off chance that anybody from my family-friendly work 9 to 5 job catches any of this.
That's
Yeah,
cute.
little and they're literally, like, maybe a knuckle big, I mean, they're not even, a
They're
full
tiny.
3 inches. They're just
That's cute.
tiny. I was like, "That is amazing." It's just a little
Aw.
keychain. Yes.
That's
Favorite thing
funny.
ever. But yeah, dragon pop sockets. And she does them like she does them custom too. I have one that's purple and white, one that's purple and black, and then I have one that's blue and black.
Okay. I
Mhm.
like that. I
Yeah.
wanna see them now.
I'll have to send you pictures
Yeah,
since
send me
they're
pictures because I
way
wanna
over there.
see them.
Okay. So we know do you on the topic of paying our authors and places to get books, do you have a preference as far as bookstores? Because, as much as I love the Zon, I would prefer to go to a physical store, but Barnes& and Noble is so expensive.
Barnes& and Noble is so expensive, but I have to go every so often at least. Cause
Yes.
I like Amazon too, cause I don't have to go anywhere. But when I'm in the
Yes.
mood to go to a little bookstore or whatnot, it would have to be Barnes& and Nobles. I like
And the thing
Books a Million, but they don't have as
okay.
many as Barnes& and Noble.
So in the city I live in Longview,
Okay.
right outside of Tyler, which is not far from Dallas. In Longview, we have a BAM and no Books a Million. I work in Tyler, where I grew up an hour away.
Mhm.
We have a Barnes& and Noble, but no BAM.
Ah.
So whenever people are like, "What do you want for your birthday?" Or do you want a Barnes& and Noble gift card?" I'm like, "No."
As much as I do,
I'm
no.
like, "I'm gonna make you drive an hour to Longview so that you can get me a Books A Million
Right?
gift card because it's closer to my house."
Aw.
Yeah.
I just feel like BAM doesn't have as many books as Barnes and Noble does. Like it has a lot, but I don't know.
Mm,
My BAM, the closest one near me, because we don't have many of them. It's just really small compared
yeah.
to Barnes and Nobles and stuff.
So, the one in Longview is the same size as the Barnes& and Noble in Tyler,
Mhm.
but Tyler also has half-price books, and then, of course, Goodwill, and, like, we have a Goodwill here in Longview, but it's small, like,
Mm.
pop-up small, and we have a small indie store that is, like, in the downtown area, but I went in there looking once, and I just said how expensive Barnes& and Noble is. They're, like, nearly double Barnes& and Noble.
Oh
And I'm
yeah.
like, "I would love to support you guys, but, it like, in all reality, my bank account is not set up that way."
Especially nowadays.
Yes.
It's
Okay,
so
first of all,
expensive.
it's $5 for a gallon of milk
Mhm. Yep.
and, like, 3 or $4 for a carton of eggs, so I'm like, "You guys, this is."
Depending on where you go, because it's more
I'm
expensive, like
like
other places and stuff like that. It's yeah, insane.
I'm like, "It's $30 to fill up my tank, and I couldn't even get 5 gallons of milk
Literally.
for with tax at the same price." So it's like, mm,
Make
okay,
it make
maybe
sense.
not. Which is why we end up buying from Amazon anyways, because as much as we would
Usually
like to
cheaper.
yeah,
Or Target.
I am a sucker for Target.
I like Target. I forgot about Target. Even though they don't have as many options
They
clearly as a
don't, yeah.
bookstore, but you could get some and they're cheaper and they also do the price matching and stuff like that. So that's why I like to go there too.
Yes, price
So
matching is for
not too
life.
yes.
Oh my gosh. No, so I was looking at because there are some stores when they do their price matching, they're like, "Do you have to have a book and mortar actual, like, storefront?"
Mhm.
Please stop, because Amazon at this point has its own like, it's just in their own tier, like, way up here above everyone.
Right. They're in
Like,
their
y
own
at this
area.
point,
Like
if you really wanna compete, you need to just kinda come on with it.
mhm. Yeah.
Okay, I have another thinking question for you.
Okay.
when you have a book that is, for example, a split between like a mystery, a thriller, and romance. If you were to categorize your bookshelves according to genre, what category would you put that book in?
Oh my god, that's hard. Thriller.
Thriller.
Yeah.
See, I
What about?
kind of,
I think.
for me, I don't know, honestly, because I have, ooh, here we go. For me, I would say most likely it would depend on if that's actually what I was doing, but
Can you give me a charger? Okay. Sorry, my phone's on like 3%.
like, uh-oh. But no, yeah, I'm not sure because I feel like whichever one is the strongest as far as plotline goes would maybe where I fell, but also like somebody made a point the other day, um, for example, if you're looking at the majority of what Colleen Hoover writes versus Verity and Layla, like they would still leave those two with the rest of her novels in the romance section because it's too from an
Too
author who's
much
writes
romance.
majorly, yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
I would
she's like
do the
seen
same.
as a romance author, like
Mhm.
that's what she's, but she decided to step out for 1 or 2 books and write something else. So like they would just lump those in with the rest so that they don't stand on their own.
I think that I would probably keep it as like a. I would keep it definitely with Colleen Hoover, like all together.
Mhm. I have to think about that regularly because so many, like so many that's first of all, that's why I do not organize my shelves by genre because if anybody ever asks me, there is no theme. It is straight chaos in this library. It is.
Same.
It just goes where I want it to go. One day, I maybe might, probably not, but I've thought about trying to do it by color.
Mhm.
But then I go to look at some of my series where they have different color covers, and I'm
Oh
like, I'm
yeah.
not splitting them up.
No, I feel like that would be wrong.
So wrong.
No, I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't do that.
So like we're ever just forever in chaos land.
Yeah, I have like my romance, like my light and fluffy romance, my dark
Mhm.
romance, and I think I have my fantasy shelf, and then I have thriller and horror on the bottom. That's how I have it right now. Before, it was just wherever, whenever. But now it's a little more organized.
So I've got this shelf here, which is
Mhm.
really just a bunch of random. Most of them is like it's either a duet or individual books like the start of a trilogy,
Mhm.
where I haven't collected all of them, or standalones. And then when I
Okay.
get to this shelf, and then there's the tree back there, and that is
Mhm.
majorly standalones. This shelf, the black shelf right here, it's sectioned by completed. So, like, what I actually have collected all of. So
Okay.
I could put my duets here, but I choose not to because there are only 2 of them and they would take up room. So
Mhm.
it's like minimum trilogy and only what I've actually have collected all of. The very top shelf, aside from this corner back here, this is it's by itself up there because it's a cozy mystery and it's some of the only cozy mystery, like murder mystery that I have.
Uh-huh.
There and it's by, Agatha Frost, and there are, like,
Okay.
almost 30 of them, and I have, like, 22, 23 of them. So they get to sit up there by themselves because
Okay.
there are so many of them.
Mhm.
Not completed, but there are so many of them that they
You're
need their
almost
own
there
shelf.
practically.
I know. And then these are ones I'm trying to honestly, I have no idea why they're still up there, I just haven't had time. So then you've got your SJM shelf.
Mhm.
So, like, it's kind of like cozy mystery, fantasy. These are almost all fantasy aside from Elle Kennedy, and that's just because there are 5 of them and they are beautiful.
Uh-huh.
And then everything below is, like, romance. Not
Okay.
necessarily any specific order. So it's kind of in that way,
You
and I
yeah,
may
you're
do
kinda
more.
organized, I
I've
would say.
got a directly directly right here is a tiny, tiny white cube shelf.
Mhm.
It's a little 4 cube, and it's got my special editions on it,
Mhm.
and then I have another one of these on the other side of that white shelf that's actually majorly empty aside from one shelf, and that one shelf holds, like, one actual and it's all indies.
Okay.
And they're only really over there because they're majorly local to me.
Mhm.
Like, I got them all, from an event that was within an hour of my house, so I wanted them all to sit together as they hold
That's
like,
cute.
it was my first ever my first ever convention type event,
Mhm.
and it was a bunch of really small indie authors that I had never heard of. I mean, they maybe have, like, a couple hundred following from what I could tell. And
Mhm.
so I was like, "These are really interesting." Well, I say that aside from one series. Jade Dalston actually lives, like, 40 minutes from me, and I fangirled really hard. And I got there and I was like, "I made this bracelet for you," and she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cute, here's your order." Like, I put a whole bunch of extra goodies in there, and then, like, we snapped a picture, and I was like, "I'm so excited." So
Oh,
I'm just
that's
like, I
exciting.
was standing there kind of
Like, "Hello?
like, mouth open.
Is this real
Yes.
life right now?"
Is it real? So, yeah, that's just like, for Readers Take Denver, Rebecca Yarros is gonna be there,
Yeah.
and, I have a coworker, that's what we'll call them, that's going,
Okay.
and it's actually my boss, but
Oh, nice.
yeah, it's weird. Um, uh, no shame if she watches, but, with love, you're still great, but it's just a little weird for me because she's almost twice my age, so it's like one of those, you could be my mom and like, we read the same things, and
Okay, yeah.
my own mother is an actual reader, and she does not read any romance. She's like a strictly horror, thriller, murder mystery woman,
I guess it's
high
better that
stakes.
way for your mom to not read, like, the romance and stuff.
So, but I was talking to her because I was like, Rebecca Yarros' line is gonna be massive.
Mhm.
Like, obviously, Chantel's gonna be there, and her line's gonna be huge, and Sadie Kincaid's gonna be there, and her line's gonna be huge, and, et cetera, et cetera, but it was like, the level that your Rebecca Yarros has gotten to is
Mhm.
almost celebrity style. Like,
Mhm.
they've had to go and change a whole section of this event to center around her because of really one book. Like,
Yep.
Iron Flame has had enough time to be out for people to, like, really get hype about it, but Fourth Wing started it all,
Mhm.
and they already knew going into 2024 that it was gonna be like this, and I just had to sit here and think, like, I don't even wanna try. Like, I don't even wanna try to get in her line. Like, I'm taking clear Avery labels to work as book labels, and, like, I plan on getting a couple extra signatures for some of my friends, and if I just happen to catch her, like, in an elevator or something,
Uh-huh.
"Yeah, hey, do you mind?" But she has, like, I think she said carpal tunnel,
Oh.
something something like that,
Uh-huh.
and so she has a hard time, like, they were trying that's one of the reasons why they were looking at doing signings a little bit different because she is gonna have someone with a stamp of her signature,
Oh, okay.
to the side so that if you don't have Like, if you're not keen on like, you don't have to meet her, you just would like to have something signed so that it's special, you could get it stamped and then move on and just kind of see her kind of thing.
Yeah. That's pretty cool though to do that.
But it was really neat, and I thought, "You know
Yeah.
what? For people who can't sign, like, hundreds of things at something like this, due to any sort of strenuous reason, that's
Mhm.
really kind of ingenious because I would
Yeah.
have never thought of that."
No, I wouldn't have either. But it's really smart.
Yeah, for sure. But I have this really strong urge to, like, fangirl really hard with Chantel Tessier because she literally, like, changed my brain chemistry with Carnage.
I haven't read it.
Mm.
I haven't read any of her books. But I've
I
heard of Carnage and I heard a lot about it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I loved The Ritual. Absolutely loved it. And
Mhm.
then the other 2 too. I didn't read Sabotage because I didn't know it had to go in between those, but I started Carnage, and I actually got it as an arc. So when I say the amount of scared I was to read that book, I was like, "I have to have it done by a certain time because I have to post my review." And I'm, like, terrified to read this book because it's supposed to be, like, extremely dark, and I've read some dark stuff, like
Yeah.
Darling Venom, Haunting and Hunting, Captured by Lauren Beale, like, I've Shallow River. I've read some things that are pretty into the dark, and then I read that and I was like, "Oh, oh, okay." There's one of those, like, you have to kinda set it down and be like, "Alright, we're gonna have to process this trauma in a
Like
minute."
more than captured for you?
Um Eh, I wouldn't necessarily say more, but extremely similar for me. Have you read Captured?
I did. I buddy read it with Angie.
Oh my gosh,
I
I love
wouldn't have read it by myself if I didn't.
we oh my gosh, for anyone who doesn't know, um, if you don't have many triggers or you can withstand some triggers, you probably should read that one. For the dark romance girlies, for anyone who does, no, I will never look at a jar of mayonnaise the same.
Ugh, that scene was literally disgusting.
So
After reading that scene, I put it down.
nasty.
I was like, nope, there's no way.
I literally she I had no idea she was budding reading with you because about the same time I was reading it too,
Mhm.
and she was like, "Yeah, I'm reading it, but I'm reading it really slow."
Mhm.
She's like, "I've got this, that, and this going on," and I, like, plowed through it, and I got to that, and I was like, "Okay, so, like, when you get there, let me know." That's all I said, I was like, "When you get there, let me know." She texts me, like, 2 days later, it was, like, all caps, and I was like she was like, "You could have warned me." I was like, "No,
Uh,
no, I couldn't
I
have."
think I had finished it before her too, and she forgot what it was, but I was like, yeah, there were some moments where I had to just
And
take a
then
breath.
I literally to make matters even worse, I finished it the night before I was doing my grocery run with the husband the next morning, and
Mhm.
we needed mayonnaise
Oh.
for the house, and so we got to the store, and I was like, "Hey, I need you to go grab the mayo." And he was like, "We can't just go down the aisle." And I was like, "No, we can't. You can. I
Ugh.
can't." He was like,
Every time I
"What is
even
your"
think about that scene.
he was like, "What is your problem?" And I was like, "I'll tell you more later," and just walked off.
Did you end up telling him?
I did. And then because we got in the car and he was like, "Alright, spill." So I told him about the scene and how Angie and I were like her reaction, and
Mhm.
I was like, "And the sad part is I was like, I was scrolling through my social media this morning trying to just, kill all the random thoughts in my brain. And I just so happened to come across a social media post of said author asking for any empty mayo jars from her people because she was going to use it as like some sort of bucket for drawing names out of at some sort of convention as a joke. And I was like, it's too soon for this.
It is.
It
That
was
was way
so
too
soon. It was like
soon.
right after she was like, if anybody wants to send me an empty mayo jar, and I was like, "Huh, stop."
Ugh,
And
it's
the
terrible.
fact that, like, I watch Lauren's social media regularly because I actually thought she's really hilarious.
Mhm.
Like, the fact that she just, like, jokes about it all the time, and I'm like, "This is
Mhm.
really funny, and it's so nasty, but it's really funny."
Mhm.
And I'm like, of course, my twisted self would think that it's absolutely hilarious. But she said something on her Facebook group the other day about, her husband encouraging her to do, like, darker and dirtier and nastier, and I was like, "How much how much worse can it get?" Like, are we getting into necrophilia area? Because that's a hard
Ooh,
no. That is a hard no
no,
for
thank
me.
you. I'll pass.
Do you have any of those? Like, just absolute no's if it's in the trigger warning
Um,
or tropes?
I think the darkest book that I've read so far would be Captured, and I don't know. Like, I don't really know. That was when I was starting to figure out what my trigger warnings were.
Mhm.
It'd probably have to be necrophilia. That would probably be a hard no. But like I've read Haunting and Hunting, um, and I feel like those weren't too bad. Like I was expecting a lot worse.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was expecting a lot worse. Obviously, Hunting was way worse, but
yeah.
um,
Have you read
maybe
Den of Vipers?
huh?
Have you read
Den
Den
of
of
Vipers?
Vipers? Yeah.
No,
So,
not
if you
yet.
manage through Haunting and Hunting with no problem, I would say Den of Vipers is right up there.
Mm-hmm.
I read it first, and, the gun scene in Haunting and Hunting?
Yes.
There's a similar one in Den
In
of
the Den of
Vipers,
Okay.
both gun-related and, a stabby knife
Oh, I did
version.
hear about that one. I
Yes,
did hear about that.
there's a knife version, and I
That's a
read
little.
that book before I read Haunting and Hunting, and I was like, "Oh, oh." So considering I started there and then went to Heartless Heathens and then Haunting and Hunting and then Captured, I was like, I feel like I don't have I'm literally probably a dark romance author's dream because I have
Like no triggers or anything like
no
that
triggers.
at all.
Not really.
No,
Like, necrophilia is a no for me, but I feel like I would be able to skim over it and continue reading the book
that's true. Yeah.
because I would just be like, "That's nasty," and then keep going.
I don't know. I If I like accidentally read it without like realizing, I'd probably be scarred. Um, that and I think my other one and only one would probably be cannibalism. I am not good with that at all.
Because I am a lot like my mother and I can read the thriller and murder mystery, and I
Mhm.
watched a lot of, like, First 48 and Criminal Minds and NCIS and all of those things, like, cannibalism, it's like, obviously, I know it's wrong, like, morally, I would never do it, that's nasty,
Yeah,
but for me, I would just, like,
you could just
again yeah,
be like, "Oh, okay." No, I don't know what it is with me in that, but I absolutely not. I can't.
yeah, that's something I would probably just be able to, like, detach my emotions from and just be like, "Well, I guess if you're into it," and just
Oh, no.
keep going.
I cry so hard, but I'm just like, "Oh my god, no. I just can't. I just can't."
Okay, so what has been the most, like, heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching, like, absolutely sobbing book that you've ever read?
So I haven't cried yet. Like, I want to cry. I want
Okay.
to find a book that will wreck me, and I've tried many. Like I did, what's that one book that everybody talks about on TikTok?
If he had been with
Um,
me?
If He Had Been With Me.
Okay.
That's another book I DNF'd.
He so that one made me a little choked up. I'm not gonna lie. I was just kind
Mhm.
of like, oh, you know, that's sad. That's really
Mhm.
sad. And I want to read If Only I Had Told Her, which is his
Yeah.
version of it. Haven't gotten there yet.
Mhm.
But I read Ravenhood and had no problems. I've read things similar and had no problems. But then I got to Darling Venom and
Really?
sobbed like a baby, sobbed. I don't know why, and even now, like, when I'm thinking about it, I tear up, and I think it's because I connected, like, in the first section of the book where she was establishing her friendship with Killian, the young boy, um, K.
Okay.
I connected a lot with him in the angsty artist soul, the writer, and the relationship that they had of, like, a we're not real like, we have a connection, but we're not really like, that friendship for me,
Mhm.
I had a couple of those where, like, we were checking in on each other, once every couple months or once, close to once a year, and I still have a few of those where it's not even necessarily like I'm not suicidal, but I had friends who were in middle school, and we
Mhm.
formed a similar relationship for me. So it really took me back to then where that was when my life was roughest, right about at 13. My parents went through a divorce. I had to grow up kind of quick and help with my siblings. And so it was one of those like it really hit home for me. And I knew it was coming. You know what's happening in that first section of the book. And for anyone, I'm sorry, spoilers, he dies. He commits
Mhm.
suicide. And so for me, it was like flashing through all of that, and I'm 50 to 100 pages into the book, and her high school best friend commits suicide, and she feels like just the grief and the alone and all of that really hit me hard. And then later in the book, more is revealed, and I sobbed again, and I was like, "Am I, like, am I ovulating? Am I PMSing? Like, what is going on? This is twice." And, like,
Yeah.
most everyone, like, they're like, "Oh my gosh, Ravenhood hit me so hard," and I was just like, "That's sad."
Ravenhood hit me, but I wasn't like sobbing because in like one of my first Facebook groups, they were like obsessed with Ravenhood. Um, and they kept telling me like to read it and whatnot. And I guess the algorithm heard it, and TikTok started showing me like videos
Mm,
and spoilers of what happened.
yeah,
Um, and he was my favorite character, so I was like, dang, like now I kind of don't want to read it. So I read Flock, and then it took me, oh my god, it took me like 6 months to actually get the courage to start Exodus, and that's only because I think there was three of us that were reading it at the same time,
mhm,
and we were reading it, together, but not really together, just trying to get through it because our friends kept telling us to go ahead and just rip the band-aid off and read it.
yeah,
And it wrecked me, but I didn't like I was expecting to like sob and whatnot, and
yeah.
I didn't.
I also really felt like I mean, it was fitting for his character, but I also really felt like I didn't have enough to completely connect with him.
Okay, I can see that.
So, like, yes, I was getting bits and pieces and it was just enough to drag me on, but for someone who, like, in comparison, when you're looking at Darling Venom, that first 50 to 100 pages is nothing but detail upon detail upon detail upon detail of their friendship. Like, you're
Mhm.
literally getting to know the both of them as teenagers from 13 to 18, and then it's like you're cut off
Okay.
because he offs himself. So it was like, and
It
then
was
with
quick. Mhm.
yeah, with the other one, it was like, okay, like, he's this recluse, he doesn't really first of all, like, I'm attracted to the moody anyway. I married one. I ain't married one, but, um, it was like you never really got to the point because at some point, like, when you get into a relationship, at some point, someone opens up. Like, somebody they already knew about her,
Mhm.
and there was no really back and forth, and I understand that, like, she was getting to know him through the rainy days and the movies and the books and the quotes and the things that they said to one another, but we didn't really get to see a whole lot of that. And maybe I just need to reread it, but,
No,
like, for me,
I
there
agree
wasn't
with
enough
you.
of it because
Yeah.
you get a lot more of Sean than you
Mhm.
do either, and I'm like,
This is why
with that
everybody
one
creates like such a bond with Sean and
yeah,
Tobias because I don't think we get a lot from Dom,
yeah.
but
I just
him
really feel
dying was
like
just hard.
I'm gonna have to, like, go in and put spoilers.
I know, right?
It's fine.
I'm sure a lot of people have read that just because of like,
Yeah.
the TikTok and everything. Everybody
I
always
almost
recommends those.
I almost had Fourth Wing spoiled.
I haven't
I
read
was
that one
getting
yet.
ready I was getting ready to read it, and I saw a TikTok, and it was, like, a video of, um, all the main characters, like, if they were to be in a bar together dancing,
Mhm.
and I accidentally opened the girl's profile, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, oh my gosh." I
You
was
had
like,
to end
"I'm
that
gonna
really
start this
quick, like
next week, stop."
I haven't read that
Yeah.
one yet. I was supposed to read it with my friend. We were gonna buddy read it together because we buddy read a
Mhm,
lot of our books, but I don't know what happened. I think we just weren't in the mood for like fantasy at that time, so we tried
mhm.
something else.
I would love to buddy read. The problem with that is that when I get in the reading mood, I read so fast.
Mhm.
Like, ACOTAR in 4 days fast, like,
Mhm.
it was one of those, and then if I'm not in the mood, like right now,
Yeah.
it's, things we never got over will probably take me 3 months to finish.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't ever wanna, "Hey, let's read this together," and then, like, for example, I'm hosting one of the March reads
Mhm.
for the bookmark journey, and I was like, "Okay, this is gonna be fun, like, it's the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, like, everybody really loves this." I have
Yeah.
some people that are looking forward to rereading it, and, like, we were talking about, like, how to send covered messages and Messenger so that, like, you're not spoiling anything and all of that, and I got a couple pages in, and I was like, "Mm."
Not
I was like, "I'm really not feeling this."
not
It's like
feeling it. Yeah, I'm a
nah.
big mood reader too, so I get it. I understand.
So I was like, "Now I'm gonna have to force myself through this
And
book."
I feel like we shouldn't have to do that either because then we force ourselves. But I've heard really good things about it, so maybe forcing yourself in the beginning
Yeah.
might turn around for you.
Well, see, and, like, the problem is never that, like, I'm forcing myself because it's not interesting.
Mhm.
Like, it's probably interesting enough, but it's one of those, like, it just may not be like, right for example, it was interesting, like,
Mhm.
getting the backstory of the first couple pages for Evelyn Hugo and getting into the first chapters of things we never got over. Like, they're interesting, and even now, I'm sitting here wondering, like, what is the 7 husbands really gonna be about? Like, does she really give her backstory of all the 7 husbands? Like, did she really only have 1 kid? And then
Mhm.
things we never got over, like, Is her sister really as bad as they make her out to be? Da, da, da. All of these thoughts go through my brain.
Mhm.
But the thing is I put it down and I either start something different that, like, I'm literally trying like, devouring, cannot stop, or I just forget about it
Mhm.
because
I'm
I'm
the
kind
same.
of similar to a toddler. There's this sort of, like, object permanence. If it's not
Yeah.
directly in front of my face, I don't know it exists anymore.
Right. I'm the same way. I forget books, and then I'm like, "Wait, wasn't I reading this book?"
And then I go look at my Goodreads, and I'm like, "I've been reading this same book for 3 months."
Mhm. Yep.
I'm like, "It literally took me no time to finish this one, this one, this one."
Yeah. That's how it
Ah.
goes.
Do you use Goodreads majorly, or do you like to use something else? There's a couple other that are really starting to get popular.
I only have used Goodreads,
Mhm.
for, like, the first couple months, and then I just kinda
Whatever.
yeah, I just kinda whatever. I felt, like, organized and stuff using it, but then I was like, "Eh, I don't know." I don't like
Yeah,
to do too much where it feels like it's, like, kinda like an assignment for me or anything like that, you know what I mean? I
yeah.
kinda just like to free wing it.
I like to keep track of what I'm reading
Mhm,
because, like, there are some I feel like there are so many that I'm interested in that I would forget whether or not I've actually read it,
mhm.
and, like, that's why I would like to be able to continue with it, but, I also kinda am getting to that point where I'm like, it's kind of a chore.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
that's
it's
how I
almost a
felt.
chore.
Yeah. I know, like, there was other stuff that was, like, getting popular and whatnot, but I kinda just like I said, I just didn't feel like I don't know. I'm not good with, like, things like this, like assignments or, like, recording or, like, journal, like, the little I wanted to do, like, a little book journal and whatnot, but,
Yeah.
um, I couldn't. It wasn't for me.
Yeah, I have yet to find a way that keeps me, like, interested long enough to actually be able to finish it, like, I was able to get through Goodreads last year because I mainly wanted to know how much I was able to read, like, how much I could actually do, because the year
Mhm.
before, I started in, like, July or so, 2022? 21? God,
Mhm.
whatever it was, 22, I think. I started in July is when I started tracking what I was reading, and I read 100 books from July, or 110 between July and December. So it's like, if I'm reading that many in 6 months, like, how much am I actually reading in a year? Because there are
Mhm.
plenty of times where I'll get on, my Kindle or my Kindle app or something, and I'm reading, you know, same as this,
Yeah.
3 or 4 books in 2 or 3 days, like, I'm just plowing through them, and then I'm reading multiple at a time and finishing them at random times, and I'm not really keeping track. So, last year, I tracked from the beginning of the year to the very end of the year. Had I not gotten sick the last 3 weeks of the year, I would have hit nearly 350 books in the whole year.
Dang, that's a lot.
Yeah, which okay, I got sick. So those last 3 weeks, I didn't hit my last 50.
Mhm.
I did, like, about 300, and now because I'm like, it's one of those, I know I can do it, but I'm also to the point where I'm like, I don't want to, and I think that's part of the reason why I'm having, like, the majority of this year, I've had an issue, like, finishing,
Yeah.
because I'm like, I pushed myself to hit that 300 goal, really not even just the goal, but just to keep track of it so much so that I'm no longer interested. Like, Bookmori is fun to use because you can start a timer and it'll track how much you're reading, and it'll give you, like, in this amount of time, I read this many pages, and, like, I read it. You can backdate it, and it gives you a cute little calendar to show you all of the, like, actual covers of the books on the
Mhm.
calendar, so you can see what you did without having to, like, look at a list of books.
Oh, I think I've
Um,
seen that one before, yeah.
so
That one's
it's
cute, I
r
like that.
it's really, really cute,
Mhm.
but then it's also a chore. That's my toss-up, it's like,
Right.
Goodreads automatically tracks it from my Kindle, but I have to go in
Mhm.
and physically mark the physical or the audio that I do, and then bookmarking, I have to go in and mark everything.
Yeah.
And then I get this anxiety if I leave it open because I decide I wasn't interested in reading it right that
Yeah.
moment and started something else. Like, I've been reading the same trilogy for 6 months. I'm on the 2nd book, and I'm like, it's literally been sitting there for longer than that
Mhm.
because I started it, got a couple hundred pages in. It was longer than I wanted it to, and it wasn't quite moving at the pace that I was hoping it would. So I
Yeah.
was like, I'm just gonna put it down for a little bit and find something a
Yeah.
little more fast paced." And when it's a slow burn trilogy and you're halfway through the 2nd book and they really haven't even made out yet, you're like, "Ugh, come on."
Oh, yeah. It's a real slow burn.
Yes, for real. And I love a good slow burn, but then I'm
Mhm.
like, we're halfway through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, pick up the pace, people. Something, a
Get to it.
smooch. Even if
Yeah.
it's closed door, like, I need something.
Right.
Something's gotta be happening. But no, that's crazy. All the different things. Do you have any, like, reader icks, like, things you don't like to do, like book ear page like dog ear pages or
Just the spine.
breaking them?
Yeah, I don't like to do that. But other than that, not really.
Not really.
No.
I love to hear everybody's different things about that because, like, I told somebody, "I'm really not a fan of breaking the spines, but at the same time, like, it's my book, so if it ends up broken, I can't be really upset because I love that it shows that I read it."
Mhm.
Like, it shows that it was loved in that, but then at the same time, like, I really don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those it's kind of a toss-up because, like, I'm not a fan of dog earring, but at the same time, I don't like, if it's a well-loved book and somebody like, as long as it's not the whole page, I'm like, "Okay, whatever," you know?
Right. I if I do dog ear, it's like a little corner. Like it's like a very small corner.
It's just a little bitty it's, like, less than my pinky.
Yeah, it's really small.
Like, it's
I'm
just
like,
a it's a
a little
little
bit.
bit, like it's just a little bitty
Just a
corner, and
little
it's just,
one.
like, one of those I could have done it just slipping my phone into my purse, and it was sitting there kind of
Right.
mhm, yeah.
Yeah.
But then, like, have no problem going in and leaving tabs and writing in the book to annotate. Like, does that make me a hypocrite?
I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so. A lot of people don't like doing like the dog ear and then they don't mind, annotating or putting the little tabs and whatnot. I
Yeah,
feel like that's pretty common nowadays.
yeah. Like, dog ears are cool up until, like, you're missing a whole chunk of the page
Yeah.
because somebody was, like, way too aggressive.
Yeah.
Somebody said I saw a video the other day, and it was like, breaking the spine of the book is, like, damaging the book and something or other, and I was like, "That's why we have rebinding."
Mhm.
Like, the whole process of rebinding a book is to put something new and sturdier on it so that it'll last longer. Like, that was literally how things were done
Yeah.
so many years ago, and people still do it. Now, most people nowadays do it because they wanna make their own version of it.
Mhm.
Absolutely cool. More power to you. I love the creativity. But
Right.
it was like original books were bound in leather
Mhm.
with glue and, sewing utensils. And every couple hundred years, you would have to go in and rebind them,
Yeah.
and the story was I wanna try that. I don't know that I actually will, but I
You
wanted
want
to
to
try
try
it
it.
at some point, yeah. So what is on your, like, immediate TBR? Like, you know, whenever you get ready to get back in it, like, you're gonna pick up 1 or 2 specific.
I really don't have anything right now.
Oh,
Like, I am that much in a slump that I have not even thought about reading. Working 2 jobs has really gotten, like, mentally, so, like, it's really hard for me to concentrate on these things now. So I'm, like, trying to figure out what I wanna read again, but I
mm.
really have I truly have no idea. I'm such a mood reader that I'll just, like, look and see, and I'm like, "Eh, I'll pick that one." So I'm not 100% sure what I would wanna read. I really do wanna get into the Sophie Lark books, though, so I think that would be on my soon to be R, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think that's it. That's all the questions I had. Thank you
Okay.
for visiting with me.
Of course, anytime.
I
Had
enjoyed
fun.
having you. I think my next, project is gonna be getting on a group of friends and maybe either doing, like, a virtual book club or, like, a monthly wrap up with a couple friends that we can kind of compare notes.
Mhm.
So, if you'd be interested, we might
I
try
would,
that.
I would do that. That might get me
Yeah,
back into reading, so let's do it.
we might try it.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
do that. Okay, sounds good.